The other day, I got this letter in the mail from Tata McGraw-Hill, a publisher that had published my book way back, that said, "Dear Mohan, we are glad to let you know that a royalty payment of a book that you had published with us is due, and do share your bank account details for us to process the payment along with the tax deductions." And this brought back memories of this book, Offshoring IT Services, that was published about 2 decades ago, exactly 20 years ago in 2004. And I began reflecting on the experiences on writing this book. Of course, this book was published way back when self-publication wasn't the norm, and one had to jump through hoops to work with an editor, a publisher, to have one's book formally published and announced. And of course, ebooks weren't that prevalent. And ebooks have really changed the game now. Any author, any writer, good, bad, or ugly, can get their work just self edited and pushed online with a click of a mouse or a button on the largest bookstore in the world, Amazon. The world has changed since the time I got my book published. So I thought I'll reflect on my experiences and share them out here. So, how did I start working with a publisher? About 20 years ago, I was an active blogger and columnist with Express Computers, which I did in addition to my day job as an IT manager. One of my popular pieces on the growth of offshoring IT services got the attention of the editors at McGraw-Hill. And McGraw-Hill at that time was a pretty large, popular publisher of non-fiction books, textbooks, and the like. They reached out to me and asked if I could write a book on the topic that I'd explored in my blog. And after all, working at Infosys, an upstart offshoring company, I was best positioned to share my insights. I was the SME, subject matter expert here. McGraw-Hill assigned an editor, Deepa V, to work with me on my draft. I began sharing my draft narrative chapter by chapter with her, and she would edit that for content flow, clarity, and readability. Now, the publication itself, after the initial editorial reviews, Deepa worked with me on and the typesetting team and the graphics editor to update the images and diagrams I shared. We agreed on a cover, and we were ready to move. The initial print run was about 1,000 copies, which is normal for non-fiction works. And the initial print run quickly sold out since the book was topical. Offshoring was just taking off at that time, and people were interested in this topic. The next print run was about 5,000 copies, which also sold out, and a few other print runs followed. At that time, Infosys and my employer and their marketing team got interested in this project and assigned Vijay to work with me. Vijay, since then, became a good friend of mine, and we continue to exchange notes to this day. Vijay suggested that I share an internal corporate blog uh, and my opinions on that blog. Right? So I began blogging as a corporate blogger, perhaps one of the first corporate bloggers in India at a time when it was still a novelty. Now, the experience of writing, most authors will agree that writing is a very lonely endeavor. And what keeps you going as a writer is your muse and the urge to finish that project, to get your words out there and see your writing in print or the digital media. You need to write what you know and you're passionate about. This is something that every author will tell you. You need your passion, your insights, and knowledge of the topic that you're talking about. Needless to say, the real effort in writing begins after the book is published because thousands of books are added to the marketplace like Amazon every day. So, as an author, you got to ask yourself, how do you stand out? How does your work stand out? Authors must hustle to ensure that book stands out in a crowded marketplace. As the old Chinese saying goes, you might make the best candle in the world, but even your neighbors will not buy it till they know about it. Brings us to the final topic, and perhaps the most important topic: show me the money, the royalty. Now, in my case, McGraw-Hill and I had a contract agreeing to a royalty of about 15% of the sale price of a copy of book, which is quite common in the industry, especially for larger publications. Right? And unlike popular authors with bestsellers, no advance was often or asked. And I began receiving annual royalty statements that were exciting for the first few years because thousands of copies were selling. I was getting decent amount. Now, it was exciting for the first few years. And I'm surprised the book continues to sell, and I'm still getting royalties to this day, 20 years after the book was published. Now, in case you're wondering, for most authors, the royalty doesn't really pay your bills. One time authors or authors of a few books, non fiction books especially, rarely get rich from royalty. But the reflected glory of being a published author and the ego boo that comes with it is worth the effort. And that by itself is priceless.